Channel 10 News update.
There are some serious issues that make us all think about our country and the future on this Constitution Day. The Constitution has been amended over the past 200 years to better protect the basic rights of all Americans. But there are those who argue that the Constitution is yet overlooking their rights. Tonight, Harvey Clark reports about the people who feel left out of the phrase, "We the people."
It was an awesome celebration, this 200th birthday of the U.S. Constitution. But for many people, it was life as usual.
This is about 23 blocks from where the Constitution was signed 200 years ago. There's a feeling here of being left out, a feeling that where the Constitution talked about we the people, it didn't include everyone then, and it doesn't include everyone now.
I believe when the Constitution was written, we wasn't included at that time, and women, well, at one point women weren't allowed to vote. We always had to take a back seat to a lot of things.
But they call it a living document, even though in its original form, it completely excluded women from participating in government and did not even recognize blacks as humans.
Black people were not equal under law or in fact in 1787, and nor are black people equal in law and in fact in 1987.
Our Constitution has gone through some very rough weather, and it's always survived. Civil War, the great debates about slavery, the long period when we didn't allow women to vote.
There is reason for questioning a document that originally served the needs of white men only. But the test and challenge of today may be our ability to learn from our history and take the Constitution forward to serve the needs of all men and women of America.
We ought to be conscious of the past, knowledgeable about the history, cognizant of the great struggles that have gone on, but use this look backward as an attempt to move forward.
I feel as though black people have made a lot of progress, but we still have a long way to go.
We, the people of the United States.
There was certainly cause for celebration today, but still not for all of the people. 200 years later, we're still working toward a more perfect union. Harvey Clark, Channel 10 News.
And still ahead, there was a lot of sports going on today. Big Al joins us for the Phillies and all of today's sports.
That and more as our special coverage of We the People continues tonight on Channel 10 in Philadelphia.
Back to Penn's Landing and the Royal Viking Sky. And while I'm at it, let me just thank the captain and crew of this fine cruise ship for making us feel right at home for the past, 20 hours that our crew has been on board. We've really had a good time, and they've made us feel very welcome. But Philadelphia's floating ambassador to the world, the GAZELLA, arrived back at home just in time for the big party tonight. The 104-year-old tall ship, which is docked right next to us tonight, is on Penn's Landing, paid as a very special tribute to the many people from all over the world who came to our great nation by boat. And Terry Ruggles has more on that.
Watch your gap now. Keep her horizontal.
Starboard braces. They sailed with morning's first light to be part of the big celebration. The GAZELLA Primero, 170 feet long and the oldest square rigger still sailing. Built 104 years ago to fish for cod off the Grand Banks. Today, she is Philadelphia's floating ambassador to the world. These people are all volunteers, citizen sailors, teachers, doctors, lawyers, carpenters, and they all think it's important to be here.
It gives you faith in the younger generation to see all these people. 140 volunteers working this thing most every weekend, and I think that's great.
Today, GAZELLA leads a small armada of sailboats, Coast Guard cutters, and fireboats spouting water. They are on the river to salute the Royal Viking Sun, the old and the new, part of the celebration of the birthday of the Constitution.
Philadelphia has such an important part in the making of the country, and the ship really does represent the city, and I feel like I want to be part of the whole thing, connected to history.
Slowly now, Pete, slowly.
Sails and ceremonies like this are not new to the ship and crew. Last year, GAZELLA was part of the grand fleet of tall ships that sailed into New York Harbor to salute the Statue of Liberty on the 4th of July. While today's sail is not as big as last summer's, the people on GAZELLA think their presence is equally as important.
Most people who came here as immigrants, and this ship is part of that heritage, part of the sea heritage. It's important to this country to not forget where we came from.
People here don't forget and use days like this to remind the rest of us. It was ships like the GAZELLA that brought those who molded and signed the Constitution to this country 200 years ago. Terry Ruggles, Channel 10 News Update.
And as we close out our special coverage of this great day here in Philadelphia, you know, I was thinking that this was a perfect day to reflect on just how lucky we are to be a part of this great nation, and to think back about the diversified makeup of the many races, nationalities, religions that help make up what America is today. Certainly, we have had some rough times in this country. I'm quite sure there are going to be other rough times ahead, but this is a nation of change, and thanks to the Constitution, we are up to that challenge, and we are up to the change. You know, you think back 200 years ago, Afro-Americans like myself only counted as 3/5 of a human being. And here we are 200 years later, and I've been a very big part of the festivities, and I'm proud to say that I am an American and I'm also a Philadelphian. It's been a great day, good day for me. Larry, Alan?
Yeah, we had an interesting moment earlier today. A young man who had relatives in Lithuania was talking about the fact that he appreciated today because he said sometimes you don't realize what you have. Over in that part of the world, there's repression, there's a lack of freedom of speech, sometimes there's executions and all forms of violent repression. And he said so poignantly, as you just did here on television tonight, what the Constitution means to him.
Oftentimes Americans do take it for granted living in this country, but and you don't really realize it until you talk to people from other countries, and they all want to come to this country and be a part of what we all have here. So we all should feel very lucky tonight.
I think it is, of course it is a great country, and we shouldn't just reflect on our freedoms and our liberties that the Constitution has given us on a day like today. It should be an everyday thing, continually thinking about it.
Thanks for that great contribution, Stan. We'll see you tomorrow.
It was a pleasure. Okay.
Take care.
Thanks, Stan. Stan Stovall, live on the Royal Viking at Penn's Landing. When we come back, find out how America's dream is letting freedom ring for people all around the world.
Of others. We think of the Constitution's profound impact on American life even 200 years after it was conceived, but the document has also affected people around the world. Ann Devlin has spent the entire day talking to people from other countries in Philadelphia for the celebration. Tonight, her report shows the Constitution's impact on people who have viewed the American dream from far away.
Instead of birthday candles, we celebrated with bells. Echoing out from Independence Hall across the nation, bells, beginning at 4 o'clock when the Constitution was signed, ringing for 200 seconds, marking 200 years, heralding our freedom. And for 2 centuries now, the world's been listening to the sound of democracy.
The American Constitution is a document which gave a political shape to a nation, which has become the bulwark for the defense of freedom and democracy all around the world.
And from around the world today, ambassadors came to Philadelphia, and on board the Royal Viking Sky, they toasted our document of democracy, a blueprint for government of more than 100 other nations, some of them their nations.
We've struggled to create freedom, and we are totally committed. To that extent, we feel there is a real leak with this country, because we believe in the same ideology, which is freedom.
Freedom. We've seen them fighting over it in El Salvador.
We're only 7 years old in our strive for democracy. We're getting there. We're not going to catch up with it in a long, long time.
By a happy coincidence, this is the 50th anniversary of the current Irish Constitution, which goes back to 1937.
We also in Japan, we have our own constitution, which is not quite the same as the United States Constitution, but also based on the principle of the freedom and democracy.
In search of that, millions have come to our shores. From Poland, Ed Reeby's parents.
Couldn't make a living out there, and we as Jews were persecuted out there.
20 years ago, constitutional guarantees drew Norma Roncero from the Philippines.
Well, you can talk freely here, get your own religion, and work anywhere you want, and you can be accepted to. And I think it's a great country.
And today we gave a great celebration, inviting the world to join in to say, Happy birthday, Constitution.
Felice terzo centenario della Costituzione americana di
Cogorgicus or Logrehe Bunracht.
Happy birthday!
In Philadelphia, Ann Devlin, Channel 10 News Update.
Beautiful way to end the day and end the night, and our special thanks to Lou Spivak, who edited that videotape. That brings up another very important subject to Alan and me and everybody here at Channel 10. We want to especially thank tonight everybody who put our production together today, a production that ran from 6 a.m. to almost midnight or beyond midnight, but especially the great technicians of Channel 10, the engineers, the cameramen, the videotape editors, the sound people, the people who lash up the wires, sometimes in very dangerous conditions, to bring you the story. Without them, we couldn't bring you the story of this very historic day for Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley.
They put in long, hard hours. It's a gargantuan task technically, and they certainly met that task. By the way, as you mentioned, we've been here since about 10, 11 o'clock this morning. It's been so fascinating, so inspiring, it doesn't feel like work. Don't tell the boss I said that, though.
He's watching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for being with us.